Number 10. Louise. Louise is a vampire hunter who first appeared in the newest run of Wolverine in issue number 1 in February of 2020. She is an ally of Wolverine's who helps him to fight against vampires in France. She reveals herself to be part of a holy order called the Night Guard, who have been fighting against the vampire nation and Dracula supposedly for centuries. Louise is a skilled combatant and helps to save Wolverine at one point. She appears to be skilled with various different weapons, both old school and new school. I'm particularly a fan of her UV cannon, when it happens to be in working order, that is. Odds are good we'll see more of Louise and learn more about her role in the Night Guard in the next story arc of the Wolverine series, which seems to be heading back to this B story that was featured in the first issue of this run of Wolverine. I was so excited for that B story too when I read it. I was like, yay, vampires! And then they were like, cool, we're gonna do the other story first. And I was like, aw, okay. But now it's time. We're getting into it with issue 11. Number 9. Werewolf by Night. The newest Werewolf by Night is Jake Gomez, who is introduced in the newest Werewolf by Night series from 2020, with its first issue coming out in the spooky month of October. Jake Gomez is a character who was created by Taboo, aka Jaime Gomez from the Black Eyed Peas, Benjamin Jackendoff, and Scott Eaton. Jake's Werewolf by Night has so far only appeared in his limited series, which is now complete and spans 4 issues. So if you're looking for something action-packed and spooky to read, but without too much of a time commitment, this might be a good series for you to sink your teeth into. Jake Gomez found out he had the ability to transform into a werewolf when he was 13. His transformation into Werewolf by Night relies more on his emotional state than the presence of a full moon, and so his sister actually curated a playlist for him to help him tap into his emotions. And friends, if you like lists like this where we go back in the past year and recap certain cool things you might have missed, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up and, click that subscribe if you haven't already. We got lots of cool content and we want you to see it and enjoy it. Number 8. Cyclops Lass. Cyclops Lass is the leader of the new mutant team Children of the Atom. She gets some extra points for being such an awesome leader too, at least as far as I've seen so far. Beatrice Bartholomew, or Buddy as she's often referred to, shares a lot in common with her role model Cyclops, who actually inspired her to become a hero. She can fire optic blasts and has demonstrated being quite good at controlling those blasts when it comes to small and specific targets, even from a good amount of distance. Cyclops Lass first appeared in Marvel's Voices from February 2020 and appears alongside her fellow mutant teammates in the Children of the Atom series. She was created by Vita Ayala and Bernard Chang. Number 7. Scream. The new Scream, anyways. Andy Benton has recently become the new Scream following the events of Absolute Carnage. We see her fighting as a full-fledged hero alongside her symbiote in the King in Black event. And man, does she prove herself to be a survivor and a force to be reckoned with. In her one-shot, this new incarnation of Scream, who also has her very own Hellmark she can use, is seen taking on Null all by herself. And even more impressive, she manages to not necessarily defeat him, but she definitely thwarts him, coming out mostly unscathed from the encounter with Null, one of his dragons, and Demogoblin, so all pretty impressive considering she kind of was dealing with all that at once. For Andy and her symbiote, it turns out pain and suffering are their strength, and they are able to use that fuel for their fire. Andy first appeared as an unnamed character in Venom issue 31 in February of 2013, but wouldn't become Scream till a few years ago, whereas the symbiote known as Scream made its first appearance in the comics in the 90s. The symbiote itself was created by David Michelini and Ron Lim, and Andy was created by Cullen Bunn and Declan Shalvey. Number 6. Aquawoman. Andy Curry might just be a baby right now within regular continuity, but in future state we got to glimpse into the power she could wield in the future. Andy is the daughter of Aquaman, Arthur Curry, and Mara, former Queen of Atlantis, ruler of Zebul. Andy made her first appearance in April 2020 in the latest run of Aquaman in issue 57. In future state, we'd see her fully grown and fighting on her own, becoming Aquawoman after serving as Aqualass to Jackson Hyde's Aquaman. Like her mother, Andy would also develop powers that allowed her to control water. She can also communicate with marine life and survive underwater even at great depths with ease. Andy was created by Kelly Sue DeConnick. Number 5. Wonder Woman / Wonder Girl. Wonder Woman is another new character who was introduced as part of DC's Future State event and line. Yara Floor was set to become the new Wonder Woman in the future and serve on the Justice League, at least until they potentially disbanded, as we did see 2 points of time featuring her, one where she was part of the League and then one where she wasn't part of the League. While she appeared in multiple titles across Future State, her first appearance is acknowledged as being in Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 7 from March 2021. Yara Floor is not from Themyscira like Diana, but is instead a demigod from the Amazon rainforest. She as such has divine power and has many fighting skills besides, having received Amazonian training. Yara Floor was created by Joelle Jones. Number 4. Starbrand. We kind of received 2 brand new Starbrands in 2020, one of which was Suzanne Selby, who was pregnant when she was granted the power of the Starbrand and also was in labor. Suzanne was apprehended by the Shi'ar and taken prisoner for being an illegal alien within their borders. She was a human and her daughter was born, all while Suzanne basically struggled to control her new destructive abilities and powers. Eventually the Avengers were called in by Gladiator to help deal with the threat of Suzanne as Starbrand. The Avengers managed to fend off the Heralds of Galactus, who also responded to this threat of the new Starbrand and subsequently helped deliver Suzanne's baby. Unfortunately, Suzanne did not survive childbirth, and the power of the Starbrand was passed on to her newborn baby, Brandy Selby. Suzanne first appeared in Avengers issue 29 from January 2020, with her daughter appearing in issue 30, the same issue in which Suzanne died. Suzanne and Brandy Selby were both created by Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness. Number 3. The Flash/Kid Quick. Jess Chambers in Future State becomes the Justice League's new Flash. Initially, they're from Earth 11, and in that reality, they went by the alias of Kid Quick. Jess was first introduced as Kid Quick, a member of the Justice Guild in DC's Very Merry Multiverse from February of 2021. They would later appear as the Future Flash in the Future State Justice League series. Here, Jess would be shown to have a cosmic awareness, allowing them to navigate the multiverse with the ability to also travel through it, in addition to their immense and more standard fare Speed Force powers, such as phasing, speed healing, and super speed, which usually also comes with a bunch of other uses that make speedsters some of the most powerful heroes in DC, in my humble opinion. I just think speedsters are like crazy OP. Jess Chambers was created by Ivan Cohen and Eleonora Carlini. Number 2. Green Lantern. The Green Lantern we're talking about today is Lantern Jo Malene, and she is definitely my ultimate favorite when it comes to the Green Lantern wheelhouse. She was first introduced in a series from the Young Animals imprint, in fact the final series left I think from that imprint, Far Sector. Lantern Malene was a character created by esteemed sci-fi writer N.K. Jemisin and out of this world phenomenal artist Jamal Campbell. I seriously love the combination of these two creatives together, it's so good. Far Sector is still ongoing, but it's almost finished, with its first issue released in January of 2020 and its last issue slated to be issue number 12. Should be coming out in, I don't know, sometime later this year. We don't have dates for that yet. However, Jo will also be appearing in the newest Green Lantern series alongside fellow Lanterns John Stewart and Kelly Quintella. During Future State, we got a glimpse into Jo's future, where she is the Green Lantern serving on the Justice League and is also the leader of the Justice League, and she is also described there as being the best detective in the multiverse. That is a big thing. That is huge. It's like not just on Earth, not just in the universe, in the multiverse. What? I love it. Number 1. Naomi. Naomi is still a relatively mysterious character, but what we do know about her is how powerful she is. She came to the main continuity of Prime Earth from an alternate universe, though it isn't known yet which one exactly. On her alternate Earth, the ozone layer ended up being destroyed completely due to pollution and global warming. This caused radiation to ravage the Earth, which ended up granting somehow 29 humans godlike powers. These superpowered beings were believed to be infertile until Naomi was actually born. Her mother decided to send her to another Earth in order to protect her, as the superpowered beings had divided previously into 2 factions, and one of the surviving villains, Zambado, planned to kill Naomi to prove that he was the most powerful of all of them. Naomi would grow up normal on Earth, not really knowing the truth of her origins. However, when her powers manifested, she would learn of her history and would inevitably end up going to Superman for training and help dealing with the evil Zambado. While still still very much untrained, the upper limits of Naomi's powers are not as of yet known, and she's pretty powerful. It can be expected her power levels will likely end up being on the same level of those superpowered beings from her home reality, or she could even surpass them. Naomi first appeared in her own self-titled series from DC's Wonder Comics imprint in issue number 1 in 2019, and was created by Brian Michael Bendis, David F. Walker, and Jamal Campbell.
Number 10. She's coming to the CW. Marking the first Latina superhero title character of a DC series, Yara Floor is coming to the CW as a TV series. So it was announced back in November 2020 that producer Greg Berlanti will be behind the project, with Queen of the South producer and co-showrunner Dalen Rodriguez writing the pilot. Berlanti produced The Flash and Arrow, and also brought us DC's first Black-led series, Black Lightning, and first LGBTQ superhero, Batwoman. So the introduction of Yara Floor into the CW is something we're truly looking forward to. No casting announcements have been made yet, but we're expecting something within the next couple of months as the comic begins to grow and grow. Who would you cast as the new Wonder Woman? Let us know your thoughts down below, because we love reading those as well. And before we move on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and toss this video a thumbs up, that would help us out so much here at the studio. Thank you so much, you guys are the best. Now back to more Yara Floor. Number 9, Joelle Jones. With a new character comes a new origin story. So who is behind Yara Floor? Who is the writer to bring her to life? Joelle Jones. The first issue, titled Hell to Pay, was written by Joelle Jones with Jordi Belair on colors. She made her first publication with Madame Zandu Volume 2, Issue 19 back in 2010. And the look of Yara Floor was actually inspired by the Brazilian indigenous model Suan Moreira. She's an Eisner-nominated artist and began writing and drawing her own series titled Lady Killer, brought to us by Dark Horse. So if you're a fan of the storytelling and design in those pages, Yara Floor is a must-read. She's also no stranger to the DC Comics world either, providing art for numerous titles like Adventures of Superman, Batman 66, Superman American Alien, and Supergirl being super. Number 8. More Wonder Woman. On January 5th, Future State Wonder Woman began, now of course being part of DC's Future State event that runs through February. But we also get to see an older version of Diana Prince as well at the end of her time. And this begins with Future State Immortal Wonder Woman. We will also see Yara cross paths with Superman and other Future State big hitters. So if you're a casual reader, this is the perfect time to brush up on a little bit of Wonder Woman's history and follow along as she makes new allies, enemies, and shapes history along the way. Number 7. Where does it take place? The CW's upcoming Wonder Girl show has been rumored to be attached to DC's Titans. Now this is unlikely to be true. See, following Crisis on Infinite Earths event, we saw every DC TV series smashed together and it was glorious. And now, the Titan story has gone back and returned to its own Earth 9. So it's likely the Wonder Girl series will be set in its own parallel world, similar to what Stargirl is doing. Or it will take place in the Arrowverse beside the main CW lineup. Who knows? What are your thoughts? Number 6. Jerry? We all love a trusty sidekick, and when it comes to winged horses, well, you better be talking about Jerry. Her transportation method is a pretty cute one. See, when Yara first cries out for the noble steed, he is nowhere to be seen. She yells his name in the middle of taking down a massive Hydra. "Where is that stupid animal?" she says. And it turns out Jerry is elsewhere. He's just drinking some water, hanging out, enjoying the breeze, just being Jerry, you know? And then leaving it until last minute, he finally arrives to carry Yara to safety. Or rather, to carry Yara even closer to the Hydra to get a better hit, you know, to take it down. So Jerry has some words of advice, but that's up to you to put it together. Yara can understand him, and all the readers get is we or re. You know, classic horse talk. Number 5. Keopora. Making her first appearance as well in the first issue, we meet the tour guide to the dark side. She lives in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil and ends up beside Yara on her quest to the Underworld. She can make animals do whatever she asks. The only catch is that they have to be animals from our physical world. She also has chlorokinesis, meaning that she can turn the jungle all around, making people get lost, which Yara specifically mentions a time where she did exactly that to her, which sounds like an absolute nightmare. Maybe that's the reason why I wasted all that time in Ocarina of Time as a kid. Left, right? Damn it. What makes her helpful right out of the gate is her dimensional travel ability, with Yara set on rescuing her sister from the grasps of Hades. I mean, you have to get past the bouncer first, and to cap it off, she's also immortal. So she's basically the best tour guide slash sidekick you can have. Number 4, she doesn't take no for an answer. Okay, so in the first few pages of Future State Wonder Woman, we see Yara Floor battling it out with a Hydra, like the one I just mentioned. She begins cutting the horn off after she takes it down, and then when Kora, the Forest Guardian spirit, the friend who I just mentioned, shows up and warns her not to do that, and how she won't allow poaching. But Yara insists that she takes the horn of the beast and plans to drive it into the heart of Hades, twisting until it oozes with thick black blood, and then bring back her sister herself. Okay, so Kora says that she can look past the death of a wayward Hydra, but taking its horn simply just won't fly. And Yara responds with, "Watch me." Ooh, I literally said ooh out loud when I read that. I was like, here comes trouble, here we go. And then what do you know, she agrees to help her get to the Underworld, but first you have to make it there. Meaning, you have to go through number 3, she hates airports. I mean, don't we all? I mean, the best feeling is traveling, but like the worst feeling is also traveling, you know? Especially now, I can't imagine how exhausting the whole process is going to be moving forward in this new, cleaner world that we're in. Well, Yara hates airports just as much as the rest of us. While they're checking in with the demon border officer, Yara quickly becomes tired of waiting. There's actually a pretty funny exchange between Kora and the demon. She's looking for her membership card, and then after the demon says some gibberish, she responds with, "I know, right? Definitely feels like a Monday." It gives the readers a good laugh, but not Yara. See, this is the turning point where she becomes tired of waiting and small talk, and she just walks through the gate, or at least she attempts to. See, after a few clicks and pushes of the turnstile, she just tears the damn thing clean off. And then she realizes she made a mistake and then gently and hilariously places it on the counter next to the demon officer, who was just giving her that look. Number 2, the Underworld. So the best feeling, like I said, is arriving at a brand new place or a brand new airport. You've made it, you're finally there. The smell is different, the pace has changed. You have that excitement mixed with travel anxiety, it's great. Well, Yara Floor experienced this herself upon her first visit to the main transit hub for the Underworld, which is described by Kora as this limbo realm. The people that die end up there to get sorted out and then sent on their way to whatever afterlife or eternity they envision. It's a pretty depressing place. I mean, it's full of dead people, very Beetlejuice-like, you know? Guys walking around holding their heads. It's crazy. So when it comes time for Yara to advance in this lineup, she quickly realizes she has to pay death. So while Kora is giving Yara a hard time for missing her birthday, Yara tries to steal a coin from a dead man in front of her in order to get through. Not a good idea. And number 1, Brazilian politics. I mean, sure, the Underworld is always an exciting time, got a lot of drama happening down there, but what's Yara Floor's goal here? What's important to her besides saving her family from the grasp of Hades? Well, she begins her story going after incompetent, hypocritical, corrupt politicians in Sao Paulo, Brazil. In the Future State Superman Wonder Woman issue 1, it's set in the near future where there's quite a few of these guys zipping back and forth to meetings in their fancy helicopters. So she literally wants to make the skies cleaner. She even gives one of them a hard time, asking about where the money's gone for all the roads. I mean, to be fair, I've always wanted to try one of those Uber helicopters. Maybe I'll do it someplace Yara isn't hanging out, you know? Or else she'll make me write lessons down over and over again like Bart Simpson. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Fuse, aka Johnny Watts. Making his debut in Hawkeye Volume 5, Issue 2 in 2017, we find Johnny crossing paths with Kate. We find Kate taking out some frat boys, and she actually almost shoots Johnny. But he insists that he hangs around to make sure that she's okay. He's not a bad guy, he's not a threat. He's actually quite amazing. Everyone be like Johnny. It's not hard. Watch out for people. And then he returns in the next issue after finding Kate, but this time we see him insist that he goes along for the ride. Interesting. He got close to Kate during investigations, and eventually Kate ends up having feelings for Johnny. In an amazing reveal, we find out Johnny's true purpose. So during a battle with Hawkeye and Madame Mask's crew, Johnny saves Kate's life by shielding her from falling concrete. Super strength? Super speed? No. See, Johnny can omnimorph duplicate. So basically, he can essentially become any substance that he makes contact with. Hence the fitting alter ego super name, Fuse. Johnny Watts is awesome. He's laid back, realistic, charming, of course. I'm kind of hoping we get a version of him in the Disney Plus Hawkeye series. He could be a nice mid-season surprise. I don't know, I'm here for it. And before we continue with our list, guys, if you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead and toss us a thumbs up on our video. It's this one, not this one. Unless you're Spiderman, then it's that one. But still, you know, it goes a long way here at our secret base. You guys rock. Thank you so much, nerds. Back to some heroes. Let's go.
Coming in at number 9, we have Ironheart. Ironheart's big debut was Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 in 2016. Riri Williams built her own Iron Man suit and is a gifted young scientist enrolled at MIT. At age 15, a genius inventor, even at the age of 10, she reverse engineers the tech from Iron Man armor model number 41 and gets all inspired, going on to create her own prototype suit from stolen materials found on campus. When her actions raise a suspicion of campus security, she just throws on her suit and flies away. She winds up stopping some escaped prisoners and catching Tony Stark's attention, and he totally endorses her dream of becoming a superhero. During Civil War II, Tony Stark was knocked out by Captain Marvel, and Riri steps up to continue his legacy. She's been busy since her debut, joining up with the champions to fight Hydra and eventually being offered her own lab at MIT. Some fun facts about Ironheart. The name Iron Woman was apparently too old-fashioned, and Iron Maiden, as you can imagine, was already taken. And she's a big fan of Tribe Called Quest.
And coming in at number 8, Snowguard. Making her first appearance in Champions Volume 2, she's a teenager from Canada. Yeah, from a village on Baffin Island in Nunavut. So Amka encountered the Inuit spirit Sela in containment while she was investigating the Master of the World's faculty. So in Northern Lights Part 1, it really pulls you in right off the bat. It feels a lot like Star Wars in a way. Like when Rey was climbing around Starkiller Base, Amka tries to free Sila, but of course, she was attacked by the base's drones. So she ended up pushing them into a containment field, which caused an explosion that freed Sila. The explosion didn't end up injuring Amka. Her brave actions were a great call. The spirit actually healed her instantly. So Amka was trapped in the faculty, but she was now one with Sila's powers. Those powers being divine empowerment. So because of her actions saving Sila, she can now harness the spiritual energies of the Aurora Borealis and the Arctic. That's not too shabby, and that's also not all. She can also transform herself into animals, like more than one animal as well. She can make herself turn into like a group of animals. Private petting zoo for the win. And of course she can fly, because, you know, why not?
Number 7. Mosaic. First appearing in Uncanny Inhumans number 11, Morris Sackett played pro basketball for the New York Stride, a 5-time championship winner. He has latent inhuman heritage in his DNA, which becomes activated by a Terrigen bomb, transforming him into an inhuman through Terrigenesis. Seriously, he doesn't even have a physical body now. Mosaic now exists as an unknown form of energy floating around, with the incredible ability to possess people and gain access to all of their memories, skills, and abilities. He can also phase through solid objects, levitate, and become invisible. He's actually picked up a whole lot of other abilities since he burst onto the scene because he keeps the abilities he learns when he possesses someone. He's got this interesting duality about him as a character in that he's got all of these cool abilities, but now it's like he doesn't even exist. I really love how Marvel is playing around with the concept of identity with this character because that's something that we're all thinking about. Who are you? Furthermore, who are you if you have no physical body?
And number 6, Clayton Cortez. Also known as Weapon H, Clayton made his debut in Totally Awesome Hulk issue 22. And he's exactly what you would guess. He's like Wolverine, but with far more discipline and control. Clayton was a Marine and former Eagle Star contractor, and he was actually hired part-time to take out the villagers of Ujanka for sabotaging a Roxxon pipeline. So Clayton had a change of heart and then went ahead and killed his own men, which then led to his capture and sale to Dr. Alba. Dr. Alba is great at her job. I mean, that job, of course, being the creation of Wolverine Hulk monster hybrids. It didn't take long for the Hulk and other mutants to storm in and investigate Weapon X, and of course raid their central command. So Weapon H ended up retaining memories. So when he was sent out to fight H-Beta, there's like heads getting cut off. It's a really wild time, but Weapon H remembers getting tortured, so he wants revenge on the Weapon X staff. Nice. Luckily, the Hulk holds him back while they get away, or it would have been pretty messy, to say the least.
Number 5, Singularity. Singularity first appeared in A-Force number 1 in 2015, the all-female team of Avengers. Her origin is still a mystery for the most part. She first appears as a meteorite flying across the sky and crashing down near Arcadia on Battleworld. Nico Minoru, he comes along and he brings her to the rest of the A-Force, where she inexplicably opens a portal, like she's kind of like half conscious when this happens, and the portal opens and a giant hostile sentinel pops out. Later, in an epic display of power, Singularity absorbs an entire army of undead, swooping up into the sky and exploding in a flash of light to save her new friends. She next appears in the Marvel Prime universe in Avengers Volume 6. When she appears, the villain known as Antimatter is also created and immediately attacks Singularity, but he is defeated soon after. Singularity is believed to be something like the physical embodiment of a black hole. She's capable of flight, teleportation, and even time traveling. Maybe she can go back and fix some of these crazy convoluted timelines.
And coming in at number 4, Sleeper. Making its first appearance back in 2018, Sleeper is the 7th spawn of Venom. We can find Sleeper's first appearance in Venom issue 18. See, Sleeper is the outcome of a difficult and pretty awful pregnancy. You don't say. There's the link. So Sleeper takes on the host of Tel-Kar, a Kree soldier who is very much not alive at this point. Sleeper is terrifying, but just wait until he combines with the other symbiotes and becomes hybrid. Oh my god. In First Host, issue 5, Sleeper saved Eddie Brock by merging with Tel-Kar, saying to Eddie, "I lobotomized him. He made my parents his mindless servant." Turnabout seemed like fair play. This body is strong. There are depths of knowledge and memories in this mind. Worlds, galaxies. I've been kept in a cage my whole life, and there's so much to see out there, and I will see it. I know you did your best, Father, but I just don't need a cage anymore. And if that's not a badass line, I can tell you what is, really. Readers point out that the length of Tel-Kar's hair actually gives us an idea that this forced symbiosis worked, at least for a bit. One of the best moments with Sleeper has to be at issue 19 when he bonds to Dylan, or at least try to.
Number 3, Moon Girl. So in 1978, Marvel Comics released the first issue of Devil Dinosaur, accompanied by his partner Moon Boy, the first human, like the first human ever. This is a prehistoric old school story from Marvel, and it's recently been revamped. In 2015, Marvel released Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 1, where we meet the next generation, Lunella Lafayette. A super genius child inventor, she becomes obsessed with the Kree and builds a device to study Kree technology, and she has a real talent for inventing gadgets. When one of her teachers accidentally activates a device she invented, it inadvertently opens a portal to another world, and the killer folk from Devil Dinosaur's universe come through to the present day New York with the Devil Beast himself in tow. Luna's studies led her to learning that she was susceptible to the Terrigen mist surrounding the Earth, similar to Mosaic, and she is terrified of Terrigenesis transforming her. She gets kidnapped by the killer folk, and Devil Beast comes along and helps her out. She later rescues Devil Beast when he gets captured and kept at the Bronx Zoo, and it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. She later even earns the ability to swap consciousnesses with the Devil Dinosaur. Of course, with the consciousness of a dinosaur inside of her body, she kind of comes off as a crazy feral beast. One of the coolest things about Moon Girl is that despite her age, she is one of the most genius characters in the Marvel Universe, with a genius intellect rivaling even Bruce Banner.
And number 2, Gibb. Making his first appearance in Runaways Volume 5, Issue 13, Gibb was the last of the Gibbrim left on Earth, and he's of course a member of the Runaways now. The seed of the Gibbrim discovered the Runaways and were going to demand that they honor their parents' promise, which was to inherit the Earth, empowered by the billions of sacrificed souls. Awesome! Well, thankfully the Runaways prevented all that from happening and trapped the Gibbrim in limbo. See, Gibb was tasked to stay with the Runaways and guard them for about a week. So during this time with the Runaways, Gibb is like, these guys are pretty cool, maybe I'll stick around, I don't know. And he saw their kindness and compassion, and then when Rim and Bo returned, Gibb tried to convince them to forgo the right of thunder. See, Gibb has our backs, that's our man right there. All the while, Gert was prepping to send them into the future, like 999 years into the future. Did Black Widow finally come out? Let us know, we're still waiting back here in 2020, we're still waiting. The Runaways welcome Gibb with open arms, and they even help him find an alternate meal plan, rather than feasting on sacrificed souls. His appearance is pretty epic alone. I mean, his powers, of course, enhance strength, but also shapeshifting. Yeah, Gibb matches the appearance of the people surrounding him, and apparently his true form would cause eyes to bleed. So if you're playing Marco Polo with Gibb, don't want to cheat, trust me, you do not want to cheat.
Coming in at number 1, we have Emily Bright. Emily just burst onto the scene this year in Marvel's Strange Academy number 1. She was actually born with her magical abilities, totally freaking out her parents. She'd sometimes levitate her toys around and even levitate her dog once. One day, her dog is hit by a car, and she winds up healing the animal with her magical abilities. This leads to her contacting Doctor Strange and asking for his help, and she becomes enrolled in his newly created Strange Academy. She receives some high praise from Scarlet Witch on her first day, and by lunchtime, she's used more magic in one day than she's ever used before in her life. I'm loving this new series. It seems to take inspiration from Umbrella Academy and Professor X's School for Gifted Youngsters, and it's really cool just seeing some characters kind of finding themselves and figuring out how exactly they want to use their powers.
Number 10, Bob. Bob Dobalina, known simply as Bob, was an agent of Hydra who was first introduced in Cable and Deadpool issue 38. He actually only became an agent of Hydra because he was bullied into it by his wife, and because he found the appeal of a dental plan and stability offered by Hydra to be appealing. Unfortunately, during his time with Hydra, he ended up running into and being confronted by Deadpool, who then coerced him into betraying Hydra, forcing Bob to become his sidekick. I feel like that was an unlucky day for Bob. Also, Bob gets bullied by like a mini Deadpool. Like, Deadpool is shrunk at this point. And Deadpool's so dangerous, he can threaten you with a card. That is what I learned in that issue where Bob appears. Number 9, Jackson Hyde. The New Earth version of Jackson Hyde was also known by his true name, Calderon. He first appeared in Brightest Day, issue number 4. Raised by adoptive parents, Jackson was taught to fear and distance himself from the water, due to the fact that his parents were tasked from protecting him from his biological parents, mostly his villainous father, Black Manta. Jackson Hyde would later go on to become Aquaman's sidekick, Aqualad, and Aquaman would seek him out in order to protect him from Siren and her death squad. His New 52 version has a similar backstory, though he was raised by his biological mother alone instead, but is also known for being openly gay and is sometimes a member of the Teen Titans. I think either way, he's a pretty cool character. Both versions of Jackson Hyde are good. Number 8, Bluebird. Harper Rowe was first introduced in Batman Volume 2, Issue 11. She would end up becoming a sidekick of Batman's and a member of the Bat family, taking up the mantle Bluebird. Growing up, her dad was often absent and was notorious for breaking things whenever he actually was around the house. As such, Harper took it upon herself to become a fixer of things, and in doing so, ended up becoming a master at electrical engineering. During DC's rebirth, she ended up quitting the vigilante life, instead choosing to focus on her education in the engineering field, attending Gotham University, but still spending time with the members of the Bat family, just no longer as a fellow crime fighter. Just as a family member, which is super cute. I also love that she's like getting a university education. You don't see a lot of like vigilantes and superheroes and sidekicks actually doing that. Number 7, Alpha. Andrew Maguire was a student at the same school that Peter Parker had attended, but unlike Peter, it was not as well known for his academics. Instead, Andrew merely got by when it came to his grades. He was first introduced to us in Amazing Spider-Man issue 692, and would eventually go on to get kinetic energy manipulation powers, following his involvement in an accident at Horizon Labs. His powers would allow him to take kinetic energy and use it to enhance his physique in different ways, or grant him additional powers. He would take the codename Alpha, becoming Spider-Man's sidekick for a short while. Eventually, Spider-Man would find him to be too irresponsible for the job. So then he wouldn't be his sidekick anymore. Rough. Number 6, Wallace R. West / Kid Flash. Originally in New 52, this version of Wally West was introduced as what appeared to be the newest Flash, and the new version of Wally, but fans missed the original Wally West so much that Wallace became a completely separate speedster altogether, instead of a replacement to New Earth Wally West. He is the son of Daniel West's Reverse Flash, but unlike his dad, would end up following in the footsteps of becoming a superhero, rather than a supervillain. He was retconned to be the cousin of the original Wally West, and after helping to defeat Godspeed, would become the new Kid Flash to Barry Allen's Flash. Number 5, The Signal. I swear, Batman has more sidekicks than any other superhero around. Then I feel like maybe all the superheroes combined. He goes through them like crazy. The Bat family is huge. The Signal is another such sidekick of Batman's, also known as Duke Thomas. The Signal was the leader of the We Are Robin movement in Gotham, which was formed of a bunch of teens who aimed to fight for their city, while Batman was MIA. Duke was inspired to create the movement after his parents were turned insane by the Joker. Batman actually tried to save them, but unfortunately he couldn't. Save their lives. Duke then ended up going solo after the movement disbanded, later being offered a place in the Bat family where he would train alongside Batman himself. Duke's only conditions were, ironically, that he didn't want to become another one of Batman's Robins. Which is funny because he was the leader of the, the We Are Robin movement. So, it's kind of funny. Number 4, John Kent. Not to be confused with Clark's dad, this Jonathan is the true natural-born son of Clark Kent, Superman, and his longtime love, Lois Lane. He was first introduced in Convergence Superman issue number 2, as a little wee baby. The cool thing about this version of Superboy is because John was actually around the same age as Batman's son, Damian Wayne, we got to see lots of fun moments involving these two growing up together and teaming up together despite their differences, becoming friends like their dads. Which was cute. They were even known as the Superboys for a time. However, a trip to space for John would rob us of the continued adventure of these two Superboys. And later, Superboy would return to Earth all grown up because space travel. Wah, wah, wah. Can't people stay kids in comics for a while? Why has everyone always gotta grow up? Number 3, Spider-Bite. Nathan is a young one who is introduced in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series, issue number 6. He is one of Spider-Man's biggest fans and dreamt of becoming Spidey's sidekick. In issue number 6, we see a day in his life as Spider-Man's sidekick, taking on one of the biggest supervillain squads ever, the Sinister 60, and fighting against Stiltman. In the end, it's revealed that Spider-Man was just playing pretend with young Nathan, who was actually a cancer patient at the hospital. Spider-Man actually came to the hospital to play with Nathan and make his wish come true, because his real wish was that he just wanted to be Spider-Man. Some real-world heroics type stuff here. At the end of their day together, Nathan reveals he's afraid to go to sleep, and Spider-Man decides to take him out swinging around the city with him just for a little bit longer, giving Nathan a bit of extra time when it comes to being Spider-Man for the day. It's a super cute issue. And if you don't think this sidekick counts, I will fight you. Nathan's too cute, we gotta count him. Even if he was only a sidekick for a day. And even if it was pretend. I still want to count it. Number 2, Harley Quinn. Now I know what you're thinking, but wait a minute. Harley Quinn has been around forever. She's not new, and no longer is she really a sidekick. She's been here since the 90s, and she's not even a superhero sidekick. If she even was a sidekick. She's never been a superhero sidekick, right? Well, you might be right that she's been around for a while, but when it comes to being the sidekick of a superhero, it looks like this might be a credit that Harley will soon be able to add to her long resume of things that she can do. The possibility of Harley becoming Bat's sidekick was teased in the synopsis of the plot for issue 91 of volume 3 of Batman, but that came out in March, and it didn't appear to happen just yet. Though the cover also teased us in regards to this pairing. Still, this doesn't mean that all that teasing was for naught, and it is possible we'll see this partnership finally officially come to fruition later in the series. I mean, they're both in the same thing and they're both dancing around doing stuff, so. At least when it comes to this series, I'm really hoping this partnership becomes more official and DC wasn't just yanking our chains. Don't do that, DC, that's mean. Why you do that to me? Number 1, Children of the Atom. This new mutant superhero squad are rumored to be the new sidekicks for the X-Men. That's right, the X-Men, who have never really had sidekicks before. They won't be making their appearance until at least April of 2020, but they look promising. These youngsters appear to be teaming up with the X-Men, but also to have been inspired by some of your favorites in regards to the already existing members of the mutant community. This new team is supposed to be a team to speak sort of for fans of the X-Men squad as well, for us. Inspired by those of us who actually have posters of our fave X-Men in our bedrooms, or hung up in our apartments or houses. They aren't just junior X-Men, but they're actually kids themselves who admire and look up to the X-Men. They're fans. I imagine they might actually be made up of some of the younger mutant community who are itching to join the big fight, but were previously told that, the whole point of Krakoa would be so these youngsters wouldn't have to join the fight. Well, maybe things have become more dire.
In a 10 Superior Spider-Man. During the climax of The Amazing Spider-Man number 700, Dr. Otto Octavius, otherwise known as Dr. Octopus, had been able to transfer his mind from his dying body into Peter's living one. Luckily, Peter was able to implant his memories back into Otto's mind, showing Otto that his original plan of ruining Spider-Man was not the right course of action. Instead, Otto decides that he will beat Spider-Man by being the best Spider-Man, a superior Spider-Man. As Peter, Otto breaks things off with Mary Jane, quits the Avengers, and creates Spider-Bots to patrol the town to find criminals criminals so that he can either beat them to a pulp or maybe even kill them. But they used facial recognition software, meaning that the Green Goblin was able to avoid the gaze of the bots and create a massive goblin army under Otto's watch. After the girl he had fallen for as Peter gets kidnapped by the Goblin, Otto realizes that Peter is the only one able to stop him, so he gives his life for Peter to regain control. That's pretty honorable, in all honesty, despite all the things he did. In at 9, Oscar the Grouch. Okay, before you yell at me, he's only here because while searching for people to put on this list, I visited the list of anti-heroes wiki page, and they had Oscar the Grouch listed. Now, he isn't a new character, but it's sure as hell new to me to consider him an anti-hero. How is he even an anti-hero? Because he's teaching you about the alphabet, but doing it by stealing it from the Alpha Bank? Like what? I have no idea what to think about this. If you don't know Oscar, that's him behind me. He's a green monster from the show Sesame Street, and he lives in a garbage can because he loves trash. Looking at my girlfriend's dating history, so did she. But he's just a guy who hates everything but loves trash, and I think we can all relate. Not the trash thing, but hating everything and never wanting to leave your house that is still an absolute mess. Totally relatable. But seriously, how is Oscar considered an anti-hero? I don't get it. And at 8, Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom's first appearance was in New Ways to Die, a story from the Amazing Spider-Man number 569. Nice. Where Eddie Brock gets a job at the soup kitchen, with his boss being Martin Lee. Lee secretly cures Brock of his cancer using his life force abilities, and Eddie just thinks it's a miracle. At some point after this, Eddie gets attacked by the Venom at the time, because the symbiote wanted to reunite with Brock. But due to the way his cancer was cured, his skin becomes corrosive to the symbiote, essentially becoming poison to the touch. This causes Brock to be taken by a new white symbiote, when the remainder of Venom merges with his white blood cells. The second host we see is attending a self-help seminar for villains. We are unsure as to whether this anti-Venom was a symbiote or just a dude in a costume, but the speech bubble used suggests that he is indeed a symbiote. During the Venom Inc. arc, the anti-Venom symbiote was used to create a cure for Venom's toxic shock syndrome, which then caused Venom to bind with Flash Thompson, who thanks to the serum recreated anti-Venom. And at 7, the Winchester brothers. Sam and Dean Winchester from Supernatural are the very definition of anti-heroes. Their family has been saving people and hunting things for countless years, ever since their mother died after making a deal with a demon to help her future husband stay alive. Because after that, her husband and sons spent their lives hunting vampires, wendigos, demons, werewolves, changelings, you name it, and they've hunted it. But the way they see things, most of the time at least, is that the only way to stop these things is to kill them. And while to us viewers that makes sense, other characters on the show that aren't hunting monsters see them as serial killers who will do what they want and get away with it. Even when they've been arrested or have been impersonated by some form of shapeshifter, Sam and Dean always make it out, even if one or the other ends up dying every season. They make it out of that too, which is weird and screwed up, especially when Dean was being tortured in hell, and then Sam had no soul. What? And at 6, Rorschach. While the character of Rorschach may not be new, and neither are the inkblot test he's based on, the version of the character that has been tied into the DC universe, Reggie Long, had linked Watchmen to the main DC universe in 2017 with the Doomsday Clock miniseries that ran from November 22nd, 2017 to December 18th, 2019. Watchmen is a group of characters, but many assume or consider Rorschach to be the protagonist, since he really drives the plot forward and serves as the series narrator. As a vigilante, Rorschach believes in moral absolutes, as if there is a clear good and evil and you are either one or the other, no gray areas, no shades of gray, and definitely not 50 of them. The mask he wears consists of a Rorschach inkblot test that is always changing with his breath. This is also how he got his name. But it also helps to convey his sense of morality, where everything is black and white, and it's conveyed even better because as the inkblot changes, it doesn't start gray and fade, it is always either black or white. Halfway through at number 5, Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd is a villain, I know, but in reference to the Arrowverse, this character might be turning over a new leaf. So, spoilers if you aren't caught up on The Flash until episode 15 of season 6. In this episode titled Grodd Friended Me, a play on the name of another television series, God Friended Me, Grodd is able to tap into Barry's mind and bring him into his. While Grodd has Barry trapped in his mind, he asks for help escaping, since they put him in a permanent coma, cutting off his higher brain function at Argus in order to protect everyone, because you know, it's Gorilla Grodd, with the use of King Shark's crown which they had modified. Grodd says that he has had time to think, and that while he has done some terrible things, he regrets them and wishes to return to Gorilla City, which is now on Earth Prime thanks to Crisis. Grodd's mind was also not affected by Crisis, meaning he has all memories of what he had done on Earth 1, and he also mentions this, saying he knows about the Crisis. Barry ends up eventually helping him, even merging their minds and giving Grodd his powers temporarily while in his mind, defeating the Gatekeeper and escaping his mind prison. So now that Grodd seems to be on the up and up, we may see him as an ally to Team Flash in the future. Also, Flash Grodd was badass. And at 4, Harvey Specter. Harvey Specter is a character from the television show Suits, which began airing back in 2011. While he may not be a comic character, Harvey is for sure what we can classify as an anti-hero. His questionable methods started in episode 1, where he hired a guy who came into his office running from the cops with a briefcase full of an illegal substance. Weed. This kid that he hired also didn't have a law degree or a license, meaning that it was illegal for him to practice law. While this may be a constant drama point for the series, Harvey has done some pretty shady things to get what was right done in the past, such as forging documents with the help of this fraud, blackmail, obstruction of justice in order for his secretary to get away with a crime. He's beaten people and threatened them, all within the 5 seasons I'm currently on. While Harvey is always fighting the good fight, he does compromise his morals constantly for either the good of the firm, himself, Mike Ross, the fraud he hired, or his client, even if he can tell the client is guilty because it's his job. He is literally the definition of an anti-hero. And at 3, Young Cable. Kid Cable was set up back in Cable 157, which revealed that Cable is a complex time-space event on his own. The timeline has changed around Cable countless times, and because of this, history is full of different versions of Ascani. This became a major part of the extermination event, which introduced Young Cable, whose job it was to correct the timeline and send all the new X-Men back to their own times. The very first thing he did, however, was kill the old Cable, since the young version believed he should have sent them back a long time ago. Ever since this time, Young Cable has become very important, since he not only returned all the X-Men to their own time, but he used a part of the Phoenix Force to resurrect Scott Summers, since he died due to the exposure to the Inhumans' Terrigen Mist. Not only is this new since the extermination event ended in December of 2018, but it also is a new version of Cable, not only to the readers and other characters, but to this world. It's a newer version of Cable than the one we've been seeing because he was basically born yesterday in comparison. And at 2, Rick Sanchez. Rick Sanchez is the main protagonist and one of the title characters of the animated comedy Rick and Morty, which airs on Adult Swim. He is a super genius scientist who is a reckless, nihilistic alcoholic who's constantly bringing his grandson Morty on adventures to other planets, dimensions, and even worse. Not much is known about his life before returning to his daughter after abandoning her for 20 years. But what is known is that Rick considers nothing important. He thinks that since what's happening here is happening on an infinite amount of planets, nothing means anything. So he is constantly willing to steal, vandalize, kidnap, torture, and especially kill his enemies, his friends, or even himself. As we see in the episode Who's Purging Now, we even see him drag his 15-year-old grandson along in his terrible ideals by bringing him to a world where they have a purge, and constantly pushing Morty to kill people, and once Morty starts, he can't stop, forcing Rick to need to stop him since now he regrets his actions. And don't even get me started on the whole soul bonding thing with Morty's dragon, that was just the worst. Oh, and Morty's mind busters, and there's a lot of evidence. There has only been 2 times where we've seen Rick deal with something he couldn't handle, be it the adventure where he had no control over the situation, or whatever it was the cat did. Oh god. Finally, in at number 1, Agent Anti-Venom. Flash Thompson became the new Venom when he was enlisted into Project Rebirth 2.0, where he bonded with the Venom symbiote. When all of Manhattan caught a virus that gave them all spider powers, the military in charge of Project Rebirth sent in Agent Venom to stop the Spider King from breaching quarantine. After the symbiote had been separated from him, he was doing everything he could to get it back, but after finding it, it tried to attach itself to 2 separate hosts. Spider-Man, in an attempt to kill the symbiote, poured the anti-venom serum onto it, but instead it separated and created a new anti-venom symbiote which bonded with Flash. This all happened in February of 2018. Agent Anti-Venom is one of the coolest symbiotes to ever exist on Earth 616. I think Anti-Venom is awesome, but Agent Anti-Venom is just that much cooler.